Well, welcome to another episode of Hackers Misadventures in Scale Modeling. Today, I have here the Pacific Coast Models Spitfire Mark 14C in 1/32 scale. Now, I've picked this kit up secondhand. So, the previous owner told me he glued the resin wheel wells into the bottom of the wings. So, I will have to dig up a picture to show you what the molding looked like. But unlike the other Spitfires that Pacific Coast Models made, this one is the Griffon engine version, as you can tell by the bumps on the cowl. So let's have a look inside the box and see what we got. Okay, let's see what we got in the box. So, as I stated, this kit is a previously owned kit. So, all the contents are in a plastic Ziploc bag, other than the decals and the instruction sheets. So, let's get it all out of the box and see what we have here. So, let's start with the instruction sheet. Now I know I'm missing a page in this instruction sheet, but we'll go through it anyways. So it gives you a nice cover, gives you the history of the Mark 14. Now, this is a Griffon 61 engine in this aircraft, from what I understand, looking at this thing. But so you have to read the history. You can probably see it here. But let's get on. Let's get into the contents of the instruction sheet. Now, we have here parts layout. You got the fuselage, all the fuselage parts, the wing parts, resin parts. Now, this here, the resin wheel wells, he already put them into the lower wings, so I'll have to dig up a picture of how it actually looks. I think Brett Green's got a good picture of this over on his site. Your clear parts and your PE parts. Now, as always, we start off with the cockpit. Now, you got two choices. You can go with the molded in detail, and you can buy decals that are instruments that you can put in here, RAF ones from AirScale, or you can go with the photo edge. Now, you'd have to sand all this detail off to make this fit, but I've used these before and it's turned out all right, so I recommend it. You have the lower part of the fuselage where your control and your rudder pedals are. Now, I have used, these are resin, and they're very difficult to get off the block. So great care has to be done when you're removing these parts, because those little pieces right there break off. So if they break off, then you would have to replace it with a piece of brass rod or something. Now, personally, doing this one the second time around, I'd probably just cut it off, not worry about these, drill a small hole in these very carefully, glue some brass rods, and then glue it in the hole. you have the assembly of the seat. Now, this one here is plastic, I believe. It's on this. It's on one of these pieces here. Now, I liked to make what Tamiya had done and made it a brass piece. So if you can find the Tamiya one, or you can make your own, I would replace it with a piece of brass. Or if you're not that ambitious, just replace it with a thinner piece of plastic, because this is way too thick. Then you assemble your seat to the back bulkhead. Now, these are PE photo edge seat belts. Now, I never used them. Same here. I never used them. What I used was either RB production seat belts, were really good, or HGW seat belts, were really good. And they look a little more authentic, and they bend and conform better than the photo edge ones, for sure. You have, now we go to the resin sidewalls, and there's PE parts that go on here that you have to do. And then you got to, for the one side, you put that in with these parts. Then you put either the pipes, the exhausts that are pipes, or the fishtail, depending on which one you want. I probably will leaning towards the pipes. And the bulge in the engine cowl for the rocker arm covers for the bigger Griffon. Now this is interesting way of doing it. I think it looks better than the 48 scale version of the same kit, but in the bubble top. But I'll have to try it. But I'm tempted to get some of these molded for future projects, because I think it will help me make some other aircraft another Spitfire I want to make down the road. So now same thing on the other side. Then we cement the two halves together. Now, this is where you have to realize this is not a regular mold injected kit. There is no locating pins. So there's a method of lining up the fuselage and make it work right. And I always start with the front. I glue a little bit of the front, let it dry. Then I glue some of the rest, make sure it lines up, let it dry. And then I continue down the line. Now take your time. You don't have to rush this. You shouldn't rush this, but be careful, because once you misalign it, it's a bugger to fix. This is where a good jig could come in handy at some point. We have here is the back part. Now, the Mark 14 had a tail wheel that retracted into the fuselage, unlike other Marks of Spitfires. And we got a broad chord rudder starting with the Mark 14. And it went on, this went on through until you got to the Mark 22, 24, which had a bigger tail, and Mark 47 Seafire. Now, whether you can cut the rudder off, and that is debatable. You could probably do it. You can probably cut the elevators off here and make it work. But I don't know. It's up to you. It depends on your skill. I could probably do this. It could lend itself to disaster. I don't know. I would have to find maybe a resin replacement someplace. So if anybody's got a resin, I actually want to change this to a bubble top. So if anybody's got one that conversion they don't need, let me know. Anyways, now here is the wheel wells. Now I have a picture of how these look. Now I'll put it in late. I'll insert it in the video after I get to this part in the review. Now you can also make this a clip wing. It shows you cutting off this, and then over here it shows you putting the ends for the clip wings. Now I don't know if how well these ones are, but I have other decent ones in my spare parts box, so that's good. We have the assembly of the 5-blade propeller, the assembly of the wheels, and the guns. Now, the guns are molded in plastic in this kit, but the person who sold me the kit had bought the master brass-turned barrels for this. So, I'm going to be using the brass ones. So I'm going to show those to you as well. You got to put that part up underneath. Now, the canopy is good. I put these canopies on. They're fine. And normally I leave this part unglued, so that if I wanted to take this off to show the interior, that's fine. Now you can have the entry door up or down. It depends on you. And you got your cannon bulges. And we got the assembly of the landing gear. Now, there is brass ones that will fit this, and I'll have to find them, because it makes they make it look better. They're turned in that, so it's smoother and looks more crisp than the molded ones. The wheels are resin, and this is a PE part. Now, be careful. I've worked on this before, and these are devil to put on. Once they're on, they look great, but getting them on is a challenge. You got PE part for the radiator with the plastic backing. Always check before you put on, make sure it all fits, because Spitfire radiators in any scale are notorious for proper fit and look. So you have to look on that. The intake, there's probably a PE part for that. And that's about it for the instructions, because that's all there is. Now, we got here the paint schemes. Now, I know some Canadian squadrons flew this, but I don't see any Canadian squadrons on this one. Now, they're all good markings. Then you got some Southeast Asian markings too. The brown one, I believe, is the one with the clip wings, hence why the parts are in there. But otherwise, it's a your standard REF dark green and I think it's medium sea gray. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. Yeah, medium sea gray. Ocean gray, sorry. Medium sea gray is underneath, ocean gray is on the top. Alright, so let's get into looking at the kit. So, we'll look at the PE part here in a minute, because all the PPE parts were made by Edward Griffon. There's the brass gun detail. The resin. And this. Now, let's start with the fuselage. Now, as you can see, I get this thing to hold up closer and get the focus on it. The detail on this is very, very good. But, as you can see, there's no locating pins, so you have to be very careful. Now this little thing here, though I don't think it will interfere, I'd nick it off anyways. Same as here. This might interfere with the this little injection pin here. I'd take that off too, in just case it interferes with the resin part. But you got the those tabs that they screwed to take off the cowling on there, and on the overhead fuel tank. Now, but the rest of it has no rivet detail. If you want rivet detail, you're gonna have to get a Rosie the Riveter or something and rivet it yourself, which is not hard. I've done it, and if you do it correctly, if you take your time, do it correctly, you can do it in like no time flat. It's very easy to do. Now the interior. You get a structure member here that goes in there. But what I find is that you can still, if you look down, like, if you put the two halves together, even without you can see right down through. So what I did to the Mark 9 Spitfire from this company, and I did it with the Revell Mark 9 too, is after this bulkhead, I added some more rib tape details and another bulkhead. That covers that blank area. So if anybody gets nosy, you can still see rib detail. Now both sides are the same. Both sides are the same. Now, as with gluing all this together, always make sure, like, that tab's got to go. That tab right there's got to go, or it's going to interfere with the instrument panel. I know that from the other kit. You have to make sure this is lined up perfectly. Or you got to make sure your resin part's lined up perfectly, because it will help you line the rest of the structure together. These where jigs come in handy. Now, the wings, there's the resin. And get the light to shine in the hole there. It's nicely detailed. That's where you're, and it comes molded like that. Now obviously he's cut things off and sanded it off, and that. I think he could have cut more of this off, but I could be wrong. I have to check things out. I might end up having it sanded even further when I put it together. But you also get the bottom floor detail as well on this. And the focus. Again, the detail underneath is great. But again, where it calls for some rivets, there are rivets there, and they're nice, and various screws to take panels out, but there's no riveting detail. Again, you would have to get a Rosetta riveter wheel and rivet this thing. Check your resistance, make sure you have your panel lines and stuff. If you miss a panel line or it doesn't look like right, but as long as both sides are equal, who knows? Who would know unless somebody actually knows, and you run into those people. Now, another thing I question is whether I can drop the flaps on this. Now, generally, when the Spitfire's at rest, the flaps are not down. But sometimes when they're doing maintenance, the flaps are down. So it's up to you whether you have the flaps up or down. But it's strictly up to you. I'm not sure. I can't remember if I dropped the flaps on my other ones or not. Oh well. Anyways, that's strictly up to you. You would have to figure out where this line is on here and sand this down a little bit more to make it work right. Make it look right anyways. So again, both sides are the same, but the rivet detail, the detail that's there is good. Thing is, you would have to rivet it yourself if you wanted to rivet it. Now, here's the instrument panel. I'll get up close and let you have a look at it. It's not bad for detail. If you're unsure about using the PEs, then you can just get some decals from AirScale, who do RAF decals for this time period, and you can use those instead. And it will come out just as nice. Just take some micro scale crystal clear and put some very thin drops in there to get the effect of the glass, or you can use even use Future and put a little drop in there. It's up to you. Make sure you weather it before you put the glass in, though. Now, here's what I mean by the guns. They look okay, but when you compare them to these ones look a lot better. They look closer to what they're supposed to look like. Now, they're devil to put in, but I managed to do it. Now, there's the rocket arm cover bulge for the fuselage. And I wonder if I could put that on a Mark 5 to make it a Mark 12. I don't know. I'll have to do a little research on that. But anyways, and there's your 5-bladed propeller, nose cone, and your hub behind it for the propellers. Now, I got a loose propeller here. As you can see, it's got a notch in it to help line these up. So they're perfect. I'd give it a slight rub with a very light rub with a file just to make sure it's flat, so you have all the surface connected. And make sure you paint these before you put them on. Now, I forgot to mention, if you look at the fabric on the rudder, it looks very nice. It's not overly done, it's not proud, but it's just nice enough to say, I'm here, but I think it's more proper than some of the other ones. The same as the horizontal stabilizer with the elevator. nice fabric detail. And as you can see, you could probably cut that out fairly easily to drop them if you wanted to. And there's the clip wing end. There's your door. I'm pretty sure Roy Sutherland and Barracuda Studios has a better one. They also have better wheels. I think they also have better seats too that would go with this. If you desire to go that route, there's the mount for your seat. I think I would probably drill those out to make it more so it's more see-through. I think if I hold up to the light, you can almost see through anyway, so wouldn't take that much. Just make sure you got the right size drill in there. Now that's for the stacks. That's the little thing that goes in here for the stacks, which makes it a lot easier. Goes in here, which makes it a lot easier to paint and then install the exhaust afterwards. And there's the doors for the rear. Okay. And this is the underside. It has some rivets too. Now, if I remember correctly, doing the Mark 9, this can be a little iffy on getting it on there. I think what I ended up having to do, and I have to look back because I take pictures of everything, because you need to sand this a little bit because it doesn't sit proper, because there'll be a gap in there. But what I think I did was I glued a little piece of plastic, one of the ribs that come around down here, so that I had something this to stick to. Okay, so put this all back in the bag because it's in my way. Now I'll insert a picture of the wheel well later. Now, well, that's why stuff keeps falling out. There's a hole in that bag. I'll have to get a new bag for that, or at least tape it. Anyway, put all these parts back in here. So now we take the resin parts out. Now, the seat is not bad. It's fairly good, but just be careful when you're cutting under here, under this part, that you got to remember that there's a divot in there, so you got to cut it so that you don't cut the divot, but the thing off. What I would do is I cut it closer to the block and then lightly sand. It's going to be underneath where you can't see it anyways, so if you leave a little bit there, it's not going to make a difference. And the Spitfire wheels, they're not bad. I would use them, but I will see if I would check out Roy's wheels to see if he's got some that are better. We have the exhaust. Now this is the pipe exhaust, and they're nicely hollowed out, so that makes the job easier. These are the fishtails, okay, and they're all hollowed out too. They're nice and hollowed out. Your joystick, or the spade as the British would say. Nice detail on that. I think there's more wires to it, but I'm not too sure, but I'll paint it up as is. Now this is the problem child. This is what I was telling you about. If you look real close, you can see, if I can get it closer, you can see how hard that is going to be to cut out. It's very hard to cut out. One mistake and you ruin the whole thing. So be careful. If it's not a big deal if you cut this little piece here off, because you can always replace it with a piece of brass, but make sure you have a piece of brass that size ready on hand before you start it. Now there's the underfloor detail that you get. And these are the sidewalls. Nicely done, nicely molded. Some very nice detail here. It would come out really nice with some painting and detailing and some weathering. Okay, so I showed you this before, but I'm going to show you again. There's those brass barrels I got with the kit. Now, the clear parts for oh, there's a little piece that come off. Let me focus this again. The clear parts are not bad. They're fairly clear. They're just hard to get out of the damn bag. But as you can see, it's nice and clear. Let me get a close-up on that for you. Good. Get it focused in. There we go. See how clear that is? Very nice. So is the back half. It's not bad. If you put all the numbers, it's fairly clear. Okay, so last thing we look at is, and I'm not taking it out of the thing, is the, back this off again, is the PE part. There. The dials, I'll get closer and focus it for you. Dials are not bad. The dials are not bad. And those parts for the landing gear. But as you can see, and the radiator, and for the radiator, as you can see, the seat belts, they look good, but I don't use them. I rather use the fabric ones. Anyways, that is, if I can find it again, that is the not special hobbies, what am I talking about? Pacific Coast Models Mark 14 Spitfire in 32nd scale. I hope you enjoyed this video. And remember, every build is an adventure, so go make it awesome. And I'll see you later. And also, subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and go over my Gives and Go page to support my efforts here, because I'm buying all these kits I'm reviewing. I buy with my own money. I don't get nothing. I don't get any freebies here. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.